and welcome to another episode of All That Film. Hey everybody, so we're going to be doing a bit of a shorter episode. I know we've been doing movie news, box office stuff, but just to take in all the directing category for the 2010s, we just wanted to get right to it and cut to the chase. So I have some great guests that I'll be introducing later for a little bit, but we're going to be talking about best directors of the decade. Each of us are going to be saying our top three, starting from three, moving up the ladder. I just wanted to mention real quick, the fan vote that we did on Twitter, the Twitter poll, was decided the number one pick being Celine Sciamma. All these Portrait of a Lady on Fire fans, great job. Bong Joon-ho was number two. No third place was decided, so it's just those one and two are already locked in as votes. And I'll start things off. My third pick is actually Photo Finish, coming in at a ripe age of like 70. My boy Martin Scorsese for number three is going to be my first pick. I mean, if you just look at this and you see like he's just trying so many different things throughout the decade. You have Wolf of Wall Street, The Irishman. Silence is a departure from any of those in a very patient way that I think heavily influenced his production in The Irishman. Even smaller things like Hugo and Shutter Island, it's hard to ignore Scorsese here. So that's going to be my number three. He's just very incredible. Lindsay, do you have your number three?
I do. My number three is Barry Jenkins.
Ooh!
I love him.
Two-film wonder.
Yeah, okay, yeah. He only has two films this decade, but they were two phenomenal films. And one of them won Best Picture. So, I mean, I don't think that only having two films means that he can't be discussed for Best Director. He has really, really great films. Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk. If Beale Street Could Talk didn't get as much recognition as Moonlight, but I do think it should have. I do think it should have, because I think it's equally as beautiful as Moonlight. I think he's just got a voice that we don't see very often, and I really like the style of his movies, and I think that he's important, and I can't wait to see how many more amazing movies he makes.
Awesome. Great pick, Lindsay. And then we're going to be moving to Theo with his pick, and then I'll be introducing our first-time guest here in a second.
Exciting. So this is really tough. This is really, really, really tough for me because I'm kind of torn between thirds, but I do really. I think he may be mentioned later, but I'm gonna go shout out to Sean Baker as my third.
Oh, whoa!
Nice.
Just because both of his feature films that he's made. Actually, he's made three. I need to watch Starlet. I've only seen Tangerine and The Florida Project, and both of them I really fell in love with. They're super high up for me. I think he brings a really great direction to his movies that almost feel quasi-docu, in a way that I think highlights real life. And I just really, really appreciate, just from those two, that his films feel like they kind of feel useful, if that makes any sense.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting pick because I think in terms of like what defined the decade, Sean Baker did a great job of like embracing sort of a new school of filmmaking approach.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. I love him, and he's gonna be my number three.
Nice.
Just finished me.
Yeah. And then first time guest, one of two that we have on, Eve, give us a little bit of, I guess this is an easy way to do it. Telling us your third favorite director of the decade, sort of introducing us to your flavors of your film taste.
Okay. This is a hard one, especially because, I just started thinking about it like right now, but I'm gonna have to go with Scorsese.
Cool.
As third, just because I don't think I've seen that many from him from this decade. But The Irishman was like one of my my favorite of the year.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give him that spot because he just.
Yeah, that's gonna sizzle for Eve and Blake and I talking about the Irish, and the rest of all that film, all 50 of us.
In one giant podcast episode, it's gonna be 30 hours.
The extended cut, you can break it up. We'll have the points. No,
you
that's
break
a
it up
great
into
pick.
a miniseries if you want.
Oh yeah, me and Eve both pro short kings. Let's get it. But yeah, to round us out, Matthew, first time on. Who's going to be your third pick for best director of the decade?
I almost chose Scorsese for this, but I haven't seen enough from him this decade to fully place him as number 3. But I'm gonna go with bring out the film bro, Quentin Tarantino.
Ooh.
No, whoa!
I actually forget which ones has he made this decade?
Django Unchained,
Django,
Hateful Eight, and
Eight.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay, yeah, I can see why.
Yeah,
That's
Hateful
a good
Eight.
lineup.
Yeah, I absolutely loved Once Upon a Time. That's probably my third favorite of his. Just I think it's solidly made. Maybe a rewatch, maybe knock it up or down, but I think it's still a really great film. Hateful Eight is basically just The Thing, but without any aliens. But it's still The Thing.
It's a good way to put it.
It's a great concept in and of itself of just constant paranoia, and it's filmed wonderfully. The cinematography is just all the blues when they're outside, and just the acting from like Kurt Russell, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Samuel Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Not even mentioning the other cast like Walter Goggins and Michael Madsen is just fantastic. And I like Django. I think it has some pacing issues, but overall I think it's a really great film.
For sure, great pick. And we're actually going to go snake here, Matthew, if that's okay with you. So you're going to be back up with your second.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Second is I missed 2 of his films from this year, but the other 2 that I've seen from him were very high quality. It's Paul Thomas Anderson.
That is fair.
Definitely. I missed his like little short that he has on Netflix, Anima.
How dare you?
It's like 15 minutes, so I can watch this after this. And I missed Inherent Vice, but The Master is a legit masterpiece.
Whoa, play on words there.
It's a great film, and Phantom Thread is also great. Daniel Day-Lewis, great performance. Going back to The Master, the acting talent of Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix. It's just that much talent in a room must have been overwhelming. Like, those are the two.
I think about that a lot because that team that they put together for that film, man, if you were just there as like a random intern, like watching these two like pros like acting against each other, I'd be like, oh man, this is overwhelming. I need to leave.
Yeah. And it released in Master was 2014 or 2015.
I think The Master was like 20.
The Master was like 2012, I believe.
2012? Okay, 2012. I'm sorry. I got confused with the year Philip Seymour Hoffman died.
Inherent Vice, I think, was 2014.
I think that might be right.
It came out within the decade.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is one of the best actors just ever, personally. And he died tragically, which is very unfortunate. But the performances he left behind, especially in films like Schenectady, which came out 2008, which is great, and The Master especially is great as Lancaster Dodd. That's the name. And also just Amy Adams is fantastic in Master as well.
For sure.
She's been in a lot of great roles this decade. And of course, Joaquin Phoenix.
I'm glad you brought up
the Joker,
PTA,
baby.
Because I was worried that he might be like, I think we can all agree, like all of us really like PTA, and I might be, and he might be on a couple other people's lists, but I'm worried like he's like a 4th or 5th on everybody's list, that he wouldn't be brought up and talked about. But yeah, no, The Master's a really interesting film. I actually really dig Inherent Vice. Just know what you're getting into when you watch it because it's absurd.
I was just gonna say it was very funny when we did our like little recommendation activity, and I gave Meowie Inherent Vice, and he was like, "Oh, well, Theo clearly likes stoner movies, so I'm gonna give him Dazed and Confused.
Oh,
and turned out to be two totally different movies. I was just saying that off of what you were saying, where Inherent Vice was a lot different than what I was expecting when I saw it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but we're gonna be going to Eve. What is your number 2 pick?
Actually, my number 2 is also PTA.
Whoa!
Hey.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, The Master, one of my favorite movies all time, and then Phantom Thread, another banger. Inherent Vice, I'm a little shaky on, but it needs a rewatch because again, I didn't know what I was going into. But Joaquin Phoenix, period.
Joaquin Phoenix can play. I mean, you can just say Joaquin Phoenix can play X like no other. But damn, does he play a 70s stoner? Like it just fits him so well.
It just works really well. But man, I feel really bad now because I went on that PTA being on so many people's 4th and 5th, and we get to talk about PTA more. But yeah, no, have you seen Anima, Eve?
I have not. I missed that one.
Come on, guys. You call yourself PTA stans?
Fake fan.
Yeah, I never claimed that. I just said I liked him a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll be moving on to Theo now. What is your number 2 pick, Theo?
Okay, so my number 2 pick is actually going to be Be Gone, B-I and then G-A-N. And he's only directed 2 movies, Kylie Blues and Long Day's Journey to Night. But the reason that I'm picking him is because I have really sorely missed Wong Kar-wai's presence. After watching all his movies, I was just like, damn, he really stopped making movies, I guess, which thank God he's making one in 2020. And
so he says.
Yeah, we'll see. But I really love his style, and it's been hard to find directors that are similar. Even Claire Denis, who I really like, is not quite the same. But Be Gone, to me, it's interesting because when I watched Long Day's Journey to Night, completely, I died and I transcended, and I felt like I was watching Wong Kar-wai Unchained. And I'm actually not that familiar with Tarkovsky, but a lot of reviews for his movies bring up Tarkovsky, and I really can't say whether or not I would say so, but it is interesting that a lot of people say, oh, he's kind of like Wong Kar-wai and Tarkovsky into one director. And I think he has a strong interest in time and memories. And I think
that's definitely Tarkovsky.
Oh, that's Tarkovsky? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's just it's hard to say without spoiling, but he plays around with time and memories a lot in his movies to the point where Long Day's Journey to Night was advertised in China as this is a romantic movie you should take your date to see on New Year's Eve. So the pre-ticket sales were super strong, but considering that it's kind of like a Wong Kar-wai Tarkovsky movie, people saw it and were very confused, and a trending Twitter hashtag was #can't understand Long Day's Journey into Night. And I'm sure that's a little bit more truncated in Chinese. But it was just very funny to me. So yeah, he's my number 2, even though he's only made 2 movies. They are incredibly inventive, and just cinema is alive. That's how I love watching this.
Cinema is alive.
I'll add his 2 films to my ever-growing watch list.
Art's dead, but cinema's alive.
But Lindsay, what's going to be your number 2 director?
My number 2 director is Wes Anderson.
Whoa, cool.
He's my dude. So this decade he had The Grand Budapest Hotel, Moonrise Kingdom, and Isle of Dogs. And I didn't love Isle of Dogs as much as I loved those other 2, but those other 2 I love so much. And I do really respect Isle of Dogs for his style, because I just really like Wes Anderson, and I love that he was like, this is my style, and I'm going to go for it as much as I want. and I love it. And I think The Grand Budapest Hotel is one of the best movies of the decade, so I definitely think that he should be in the discussion for one of the best directors of the decade. Because it's really his style that makes the movie what it is. And it's
definitely.
Because of him. So, yeah, that's why I picked Wes Anderson, because he's my homie.
I don't know. For whatever reason, I had him all penciled in as 4th. And I think it was just because, I love Fantastic Mr. Fox so much that I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, like I love those other movies. Like Grand Budapest, a 9 out of 10 for me, and I think that movie's so charming and just a delicious way paired with like his style. But I don't know. I'm really glad you brought him up because I love I know a lot of people the critical consensus as a whole is probably not as mixed, but I know a decent amount of people didn't love Isle of Dogs because they thought it was too much style and no substance. But I really dig his characters that he writes, that he puts in his worlds so meticulously.
Yeah, I love the worlds that he creates. I just think he's so imaginative and creative and interesting and original. And I think that he deserves all the respect in the world. Even if it doesn't always work, he always tries something, you know?
Yeah. I think the one thing for me that's, I guess, sort of an interesting distinction before we go a little bit farther, when we're talking like directors, for instance, someone like Fincher is someone that always works with scripts that someone else writes. Like he's never wrote his own script. So clearly like he's working really like extra hard because he's getting someone else's source material. Whereas I think someone like Wes Anderson has the benefit of being a really witty writer that's going in his favor. So it sort of gets a little bit clouded for me. So someone like Noah Baumbach, he's an excellent writer, but that's an interesting example because he doesn't do anything too like crazy in terms of directing, but he brings like that script together in a palpable way, like with your eyes. But I don't know. It's just a side note that I wanted to throw out there, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'll go to my number 2. So this might be a little bit of shocker, and sorry if my main friends are listening, that I'm putting him 2 instead of 1. But I'm going to go Denis Villeneuve at number 2.
Cool.
I think this dude is fantastic. I believe it's 7 movies he came out with this decade. So consistent. All of them are fascinating, all the way from Incendies to Blade Runner 2049. I think it's impossible not to be excited for Dune 2020. And, you know, just I think Prisoners is probably his best directed film. But even something like Sicario, where he didn't write the script, he got it from Taylor Sheridan, he still knows how to operate that really well, which leads me to be really excited for Dune 2020 because, he just is fresh off Sicario, Arrival, which is a short story he adapted, and then Blade Runner 2049, which is an existing world that he worked with. But yeah, that's going to be my pick. I'm up for number 1, so I'm gonna shout out a couple directors that were in my honorable mentions. I really love Wes Anderson. I already mentioned. I think David Fincher. I don't know if other people are going to bring him up, but I think he has a very talented track record this decade. I think one that's sneaky in like the way Theo and Lindsay think about Barry Jenkins and Sean Baker. For me, Lynn Ramsey, I feel like is incredible with like the 2 films that I saw from her, and You Were Never Really Here and We Need to Talk About Kevin, in a really unique style that handles violence in a very different way. But if I'm going number 1, the inner anime lover inside me cannot ignore Marimo Hasada.
Wow.
So that's gonna be my number 1, just because Boy and the Beast is probably it. I'll probably lock it in as my favorite film of the decade. So I think it's impossible, like for someone that's created something like that, to be like, oh yeah, he's not my favorite director. Would be hard for me to do. But he has tons of films this year that I think are all really worthy for you to check out. I think one that's way more accessible to people, if you're not into furries, don't go into Wolf Children as your first one. But Mirai is one that I feel a lot of people are like, oh man, like there's a lot of themes that like I can like in this film, and there's a lot of things that you can get away from that. It just, he presents emotions in a very interesting way, and he really knows how to handle animation in the best way possible, and he's never afraid to try something new with that. But that is going to be my pick. And yes, only, my voice is cracking as I do this, but yes, only 3 films and making it as my number 1 as we go back to Lindsay If you,
Oh.
by the way, if you guys want to do honorable mentions, feel free.
Yes,
totally
I would love
cool.
to do honorable mentions. I was also going to honorable mention David Fincher. I feel bad not picking him, but he hasn't made a movie since 2014.
Can't leave off B. Jenks.
Wait, sorry.
Wait.
Can you repeat that?
B. Jenks. Sorry, Barry Jenkins.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I like Barry Jenkins more than David Fincher, but I do think that David Fincher is an amazing director. So yeah, honorable mention him, but also honorable mention to Marielle Heller. She this decade she had The Diary of a Teenage Girl, Can You Ever Forgive Me, and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And I haven't seen the first one, but those last two both surprised me so much by how much I adored them. I think she's super talented and super overlooked. But my number one is Ryan Coogler.
Ooh,
I love
it.
I love him so much. He's made 3 films this decade that I've given perfect scores to because I just love all 3 of them so much. His debut was Fruitvale Station, and that's like one of the most powerful movies I've ever seen, and that was his debut. And then he followed up with Creed, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's amazing that he was able to come in at like a franchise that's so well established and make it so new and interesting still. And better.
Well, especially when you're having to work with, because Coogler at that point, I feel like wasn't established as much as he is now. And, working with Stallone and Stallone being like, oh, you put me in the ring. And he's probably like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Yeah. And then he follows that up with Black Panther, which is like one of the biggest movies of the decade. So yeah, I just feel like he is a very important voice in this decade with the movies that he's making, and that's why I picked him. And I just really, really like his movies. I picked Ryan Coogler.
I do think, Lindsay, have you seen Creed 2?
Yes, I love it.
I do wonder how that felt, because I do love Creed. I do wonder a little bit how that film would have turned out had he directed.
Oh, same. I'm so curious because I did like it a lot, but it's not like one of my top tier favorites, and I wonder how he would have done it.
For sure. And Coogler and Hasada so far, turn of events here. This is awesome.
So do I have to pick like my favorite film of his or whatever?
Oh, no, not yet. That's only when someone wins.
Got it. Okay.
And I'm sure Theo is going to follow this trend. Who is your number one?
Okay, well, should I mention honorable mentions?
Oh, yes, of course, those two.
Okay, it would feel remiss to not talk about Yorgos Lanthimos. And just because no one has picked him so far, I just want to give a shout out to like just kind of, if not like inventing, because he didn't, at least kind of spearheading or making more known Greek weird wave in a way that like is very, I would say, like almost even accessible. Like I'm sure Greek weird wave gets way weirder than Yorgos, but like I think he's an important director for that reason. I also actually want to stand Nicholas Winding Refn. Is that how you pronounce his name? Because like I legitimately really enjoy all 3 movies he's made this decade. Drive, Only God Forgives, and The Neon Demon.
Yeah.
And I understand why people don't like him, but for me, I really liked all 3. I really like all 3 a lot, and I think that it's hard to I think he at least deserves to be talked about, if not then dismissed. But I would say my number one is it's just gotta go to Jia Zhangke. And again, I'm so sorry that I'm bringing up another foreign director who probably not many people know of.
You are fine. That's the point of this show, Theo. You're good. Theo, I just brought up Hasada.
Okay, fair. And he directed this decade A Touch of Sin, Mountains May Depart, and Ash's Purest White. And I think that I'm so glad I actually recently discovered him, because what I didn't realize was that he's actually one of, if not the leading director of 6th generation Chinese filmmakers, which like the previous one, 5th generation, focused more on kind of like grand historical epics. And so like Farewell My Concubine, for example, The Last Emperor is another type of example, although that was directed by Bertuccelli, and like Hero. And those are all movies that like they talk about social issues, but in a way that is like very comfortable for the Chinese government. And so Sixth Wave kind of looks at like the effects of like, because China just had a rapid economic growth in the 80s and especially the 90s. And so Sixth Wave Generation kind of looks at like, oh, here are the effects of like such rapid growth, such rapid like changed hyper capitalist systems. But wait, like we're still a country with like these old traditions, these old cultures, and we're like also just coming off of, you know, like Cultural Revolution, communist ideals, and try to like balance them all together in conversation, and also like looking at the people who have like been left on the margins by the government because of that. And so Jie Zhangke's movies are like more popular than other sixth wave or sixth generation Chinese directors. I need to check out more, but like they hit me real hard. And maybe it's just because I'm Chinese, but I watched them and it was just like, oof, I felt that. And they all, I think what I love about them is they all feel just a tinge of magical realist. Not enough to be like, oh, this is totally fantasy. But I think his movies, I think, do a really great job of really showing you like real world issues, but framing them in a way that's like, oh, this is like a cinematic experience. And I highly recommend checking him out. He is incredible. Like probably the most accessible would be Ash's Purest White. I know that's the most popular on Letterboxd. It's also his most recent one, so you probably will be able to find that.
Nice. I think you gave a really great justification for that, and tons of people will check out his movies. So Eve, Eve, if you want to give honorable mentions and your back up.
Okay. For honorable mentions, these are two directors that I really love, but I haven't seen enough from them to like solidly say they're my favorite or top three. Pedro Almodovar, Pain and Glory, third favorite of the year, and then Skin I Live In, one of my favorites of all time. Solid movies, and then another honorable mention is Terrence Malick. I've only seen Tree of Life from this decade, but I love all of his old stuff, so I really have to get to his like weird, like song to song.
That's the that I was just gonna throw in there. I love Tree of Life, but I feel like that, like as everything after that is like downhill. For me in particular, you might love him like for Song to Song and Knight of Cups. That's a really great pick though, as an honorable mention. I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah, that's what I like usually hear. A lot of people are like, Terrence Malick after Tree of Life is just, I don't even know. But I do want to check it out. Song to Song looks, if not good, it just looks interesting. But my number one is Taika Waititi. Because, yeah, he started off the decade with Boy, which is another all-time favorite, and he came out with bangers ever since. Even like you got Thor Ragnarok, you got What We Do in the Shadows, you have Jojo Rabbit that just came out this year, and Hunt for the Wilder People. So he's a very diverse and very talented director who I love a lot.
Nice, great pick. And then Matthew to round us out. And just as a reminder, don't forget Skiyama from the fan vote. So right now we are looking at a current 5-way tie between Marimo Hosoda, Ryan Coogler, Ji-Soon Ko. Sorry, Theo, one more time.
Oh, sorry. Jia Zhangke.
Jian Sanko.
Close enough. I can type that for you.
Thank you. That did not help. But Taika Waititi and Celine Sciamma. And Matthew, what is going to be your pick?
I haven't seen too many films from him, but the one that I saw about in 2017, I was totally blown away with. It's Denis Villeneuve. I think that's how you pronounce it right. I saw Blade Runner 2049 in the theaters, and it was one of the most beautiful cinematic experiences I've ever had. I was totally blown away. My expectations are already pretty high, since I think at the time of seeing that, Blade Runner was in my top 10. It's gone down since then, but I still love that movie wholeheartedly. And I just came out entirely adoring Blade Runner 2049. And it did not feel the length that it was. It's like 160 minutes. So 2 hours and 2040? It's nothing.
Yeah, no, it's long, but it doesn't.
It feels nothing. It
Yeah,
nothing.
It feels like a series of a movie.
Absolutely.
Again, love that movie. And Enemy is fantastic. Jake Gyllenhaal is probably one of the best actors of this decade, just because the amount of work he's put in this entire decade. And Enemy is one of his best performances of the decade. And I loved Enemy. And I haven't seen. Those are the only two films I've seen, but I love both of those films so much. But I know I'm gonna love Prisoners and Arrival. Hearing.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need to check out Prisoners Arrival.
Did you see Sicario?
Oh, I did not, but I know I'm gonna love that one. I've heard enough about them, and I know enough about Villeneuve as a filmmaker to know that like these films seem like my type.
For sure, yeah. No, he has a very this is a film quality style.
This is a film.
Yeah, Scorsese does. Yeah. Okay, so we got a good old showdown here, and we're tell you what, just to make it fun, and oh boy, this is gonna be bad because like me and Theo's picks in particular, I'm very worried.
That's okay. It's totally okay. I know it's gonna pick mine. That's completely fair.
Well, just to be clear, I don't think anybody besides Theo has seen Hosoda's films, correct?
Well, there was The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, but that's not from this decade.
Yeah,
true.
But yeah, so I'll actually kick my pick out and Theo's pick out. Is that fair?
That's fair. That's totally
okay.
Fair.
I'm glad.
No,
y'all are
I
fine.
feel bad.
I'm just spreading the gospel. That's the real reason.
Yeah.
As long as you get them thinking in the first place.
And the only thing is Skiyama with hers. I think her stands wanted to vote for Portrait of a Lady on Fire. The problem is that film is not out for us.
Yeah,
yet.
I've not seen that.
Yeah.
I do love Girlhood, but that's all I've seen of hers.
Okay, so with that said, keep this in mind. Matthew, you can only pick Ensembles and Enemy because of the way the tournament's set up. And I'll remind this for fans, because Villeneuve already has a ton of films locked in the tourney. You have Blade Runner for Best Sci-Fi Film, Prisoners for Best Film of 2013, Sicario for Best Oscars, yada, yada, all that stuff. We're only left with Enemy and Ensembles. So I'm assuming you're going to go with Enemy, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be an interesting way to do this.
Die on this hill.
And Eve, because Taika already technically has Hunt for the Wilder People locked in the tourney, and kind of sort of Boy, depending on how many videos we get for the Decade in Review series. If we only get 10, then that's an automatic lock. But you can pick Boy, you can pick Thor Ragnarok, you can pick JoJo, you can pick Hunt for the Wilder People. What would be your pick to represent Taika?
Boy, of course.
Boy. And then Lindsay for Coogler, what would be your pick?
To represent him or my favorite one?
What you think the best directed Coogler effort is?
I think that his best directed movie is Creed.
Ooh. Oh. All right, so we're in a good old standoff, and we got 3 films for best quote-unquote directed of the decade. We have Enemy, Creed, and Boy.
Oh my god.
Lots of fun. Matthew, are you sticking with your pick?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Dope. Lindsay, are you sticking with your pick?
Yeah.
And then Eve, are you sticking with your pick?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so it's up to me and Theo.
Yeah,
Theo, do you want to go first?
Damn, this is... So I'm really conflicted, actually.
I'm also conflicted.
These are weird choices.
These aren't similar at all.
Very cultured choices.
Yeah, TBH, I probably should have picked a different number one, but
me too.
Damn,
I went with my heart.
Okay. Even though they already have like fucking 15 movies in the tournament, I do personally think Enemy is extremely well directed, and I will go with Enemy on this.
Okay, this is gonna be bad because I was gonna go with Coogler for Creed because I think
really?
Well, because I think in terms.
Hey Siri, flip the coin.
Okay, here's the only thing I guess I wanted to say on Creed real quick is in terms of like announcing yourself as like, oh hey, black directors like deserve like a voice, and like have like it's just been like to the side of, oh hey, there's only Spike Lee and that's it. And we've, you know, like he's trying his best to get everybody involved, but no, just for Coogler and like Steve McQueen to come in and be like, hey, this is why like everybody deserves a voice and should be able to direct whatever films they want. I feel like Creed is like the shining example, because you have a film that has Adonis Creed, who's a huge character, but it's mostly like a Rocky franchise. And for him to turn it on its head and make it about Michael B. Jordan's character and just infuse so much into it is a really interesting thing he did.
He really came out swinging, and like he's just such a strong director, and like we just really need his voice, I think, and more people like him telling stories. So I just think that he's really influential, and that's why I picked him.
And I'm not gonna lie, if Lindsay had picked Fruitvale Station, I'd probably also go that pick.
It was hard.
Just because I feel like that's such a delicate film that was so necessary to this decade.
It was just so powerful. I just picked Creed because I just thought it was more polished than Fruitvale.
Can Grayson come on and settle a tie?
Well, so here's the thing: if Eve's pick is not going in, Eve cannot be the tiebreaker.
No!
Oh god!
Oh yeah.
So that would make sense to me, at least, right?
Yeah. Eve, have you seen both these movies?
I've not seen Creed.
Cancel. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it either.
Wait, Theo, what?
I've seen it. Wait, hold on. I've actually seen Creed 2, though. Does that count?
Wait,
why?
What?
What are you doing?
What is your movie theater criteria?
I wanted to see Tessa Thompson. That's why.
Oh, that's fair.
You should watch the first Creed, but
I
no,
know.
Creed 2 wasn't directed by Ryan Coogler. So
No, totally. Yeah. I just like watching sequels without watching the prequel.
Wait, did you see did you see any Rocky films before?
No, I just started watching movies this year.
Wait,
Theo, disgusting.
Weird.
Y'all have been watching movies since y'all was in your mother's womb. I'm just starting.
Okay, that's true for me at least.
There's an order to this, Theo.
I'm
You can't just go to the seventh.
Disordered the balance, man.
They did
I'm
the
just
same
sorry.
thing with Frozen 2. Like, I love Frozen 2. I should really see the first Frozen. And I was like, what?
Okay, let's do the unthinkable.
We can get waffles.
Maybe.
Oh god.
Is that
We could just flip a coin.
Yeah,
That's fair.
TBH.
Do you want me to flip a coin?
Flip a coin. Do it.
Okay. No, I just have coins readily available on my desk. Give me 1 sec. I'll be right.
Okay.
You always keep change beside you, man.
I'll flip the coin.
That's the one lesson you should have learned from Tom Cruise and Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh
Always
shit,
keep
you
coins.
see that too. Damn.
Okay, Theo, get on your shit.
Dude, I'm sorry.
Get on
I'm
your
just too busy
Kubrick.
watching world cinema. So
Okay, Stanley Kubrick technically counts as world cinema.
no, I know. I'm actually Hey, I'm watching Strangelove right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I've returned. All right. In one corner. Wait. Why did Theo vote if he hasn't seen Creed?
Yeah, good question.
Well, I guess I cannot vote.
No.
But
because
so then
that would be weird, because then literally only I am voting, and
Correct.
we kicked out 2 of our directors. Technically 3,
Well,
because Celine, we just were like, oh no.
So here's the thing: is the reason I voted was because I was choosing between Enemy or Boy. That's why.
Mm-hmm. I forgot about that.
Because Eve
Yeah.
was it was you 3. So
Yeah,
We
Eve
just
was
forgot
still
Boy
in it.
existed.
we put down on the.
Let me ask Waffles.
Waffles has not seen it.
You for sure have seen Enemy.
Is a worldly
Okay.
cinephile.
We
Let
got
me-
2 hours. You can wait here.
Evan's
He's
online.
typing.
Has Evan
He
seen?
said he has actually. He just hasn't logged it yet.
He's seen both of them?
Yes. Join the call.
He's gonna pick Enemy, so.
I don't. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
Enemy seems because Enemy is just Persona, which
Yeah,
is
it
just
really
3
kinda
women.
is.
which is
I just know
Mulholland
Waffles.
Drive.
But he might.
Jason
He
Waffles.
might not like it as much because he's.
I know
Eh.
Waffles' taste, and there's no way he's picking Creed.
Waffles only lives like true cinema.
Okay. Let's flip the coin.
Only true cinema.
Flip the coin for chance.
Hey, Waffles like a simple favor.
Oh, geez, lovely. All right, Matthew, are you going to go heads or tails for enemy?
I'm gonna go with tails.
Tails never fails. Lindsay, you are heads for Creed, and here we go. It is heads.
Whoa, heads for Creed.
Oh shit!
Should I take a picture of it or?
That's fine.
It doesn't matter.
No, I'm showing you all the proof right now.
Oh my god!
I mean, you could have just changed it. So like, I don't know.
You really could just lie.
You could be.
No,
lying.
I'm just messing with you. Hey.
I was about to send my family photo instead.
Oh my god!
The lonely quarter on my desk.
Oh, nice.
It's beautiful.
Hey, Ryan Kugel.
Hey.
Kugel man.
I'm not gonna lie.
Cougs.
As much as I do love Enemy, I'm fine since Denny already has like 50 films in the tourney.
Well,
He
okay,
does.
see, that was my thing. So it's a weird place we're put in, where like clearly like Denis is a lot of people's favorite director of this decade because like he like Theo mentioned, he has 5 films in the tourney. But I don't know. I did this. I don't know. People might come at me for doing it in a weird. But hey,
Whatever.
It shouldn't matter.
we make the tourney.
Hey, it's our rules.
You don't like it? Make your own podcast.
Oh shoot! I just realized today's December 1st.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
No. Oh no! I have to release the fan votes at some point today.
Merry Crimbus.
Yeah. So that's going to be what I bring up real quick. So we're actually going to have a thread that's posted about some of the best films that fans have brought up, and I believe it's 60 total. And we're going to be taking the top most retweeted and favorited of those, and then putting them into our Decade in Review tourney. Creed is the pick for Ryan Coogler of the decade, which I think is a great pick for all the directors that we mentioned here. So definitely check out some of those films. Thank you, Matthew and Eve, for the first time coming on. You guys were great.
Clap.
And, yeah,
Worth the eternity snap.
me clap, yes. And then thank you, Lindsay and Theo, for
For nothing.
no.
Where were you
Did I
here?
cut out? Did I cut out?
Yeah.
Yeah, you cut out. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you guys for nothing. But yeah, that's gonna be our episode. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Yo.
See ya.
Jazz hands out of here.